To lead the learning function successfully, managers need different skills than their team members who design and facilitate the training program. Let me share an ice cream model with you that I've developed that identify the 3 essential areas where learning managers need to develop expertise. The first is learning and development. And it might seem a little bit obvious, but if the learning manager comes from the business, they won't have that background in learning and development. So that's the first scoop in my ice cream cone. The second is they need skills to be able to manage projects and programs on an ongoing basis. The third skill area that they need is in business acumen. And it's an ice cream model because business acumen is scalable. So at the top of the ice cream model, we have senior leaders, VPs, and their scope of business acumen that they need is quite broad because of their senior role in the organization. As you move down to director and manager role, and even as an individual contributor, you still need business acumen skills in order to understand the clients, the internal business partners that you're working with, but your scope of understanding is maybe narrower. So that's the ice cream model with the essential skills for learning and development managers. Let's look at the learning and development scoop to see how a manager's role differs from their team members, the designers that they support. We'll use the ADDIE model as a backdrop. And I like to think of the ADDIE model instead of ADDIE as a linear, but as a circular model. So if we have ADDI, and E for evaluate is in the middle. And what that does is it really emphasizes the role of evaluation in each of the other stages. So let's take a look at what evaluate looks like in ADD and I. So evaluate in analysis. So here the evaluation is looking at how well is the analysis tapping into those business results and those goals that the business unit has. The analysis, it's an evaluation of the learning team's understanding of that need and making sure that their recommended solution is going to meet that need. The manager's role is to be the liaison between the business and the learning team and to translate what those business objectives are. Evaluate in the design and development phases is about evaluating the process that you're following. So how are those review meetings going? How effectively is the learning team able to tap into the stakeholders and get the information and the resources and the details that they need? The manager's role is to support their team and again, act as a liaison to make sure that their team is able to tap into the business needs, is capturing the data and the information that they need, and to make sure that the course remains within the parameters outlined in the training business case. So this is where a lot of scope creep can happen. And sometimes our content experts want to add a lot more content into the course. We know as learning professionals that that's not always the best approach. So what is that process of figuring out what content goes in and out? And so it's about the content and the output, but it's also about that process. The manager also will deal with any escalated issues that come out during this design and development phases. So in the implementation phase, evaluate looks a little bit different. And this is really focused on assessing the short-term impact. What's the impact fairly soon after the course is run, as well as the longer-term results on the business. So here we need to tie back into that analysis phase and the business training plan that we came up with, the metrics that the business has identified and the commitments that we made to the business about how learning is going to support them with this business goal. Important here is to provide the learning and development team with process and templates to capture this course feedback and the data. If you have a separate implementation team or a separate facilitation team, making sure that you're working with them or with your LMS administrator so you can collect this data. And then as a manager, you're going to support your designers in analyzing that data to identify the immediate impacts and the longer term results. You're going to communicate that ultimately with the business. And what you could do also is present that data as part of a post-mortem to debrief the design process and the implemented solution. So again, your role throughout all of it as a manager is to act as a liaison between the business and translating those goals into learning for your team so they can implement solutions that are going to meet the business's needs.